Hello to my fiefdom. I'm King Lincoln. That was actually one of the few times my opening has been thematically appropriate. Today I'm reviewing Kingdom Come Deliverance. So, I'm reviewing this game as part of the Humble Monthly Bundle of August 2019. It's part of the early unlocks along with Surviving Mars. Now, this was originally a Kickstarter promising a heavily realistic look at the Middle Ages, a game that promised, really just a high level of realism. That is an interesting idea for sure, so we're going to have to dive in here because there's actually a lot to talk about with this game. Obviously, you can look at the screen and see Kingdom Come Deliverance is a beautiful game. I mean, look at it. I'm going to try to take a little surveillance of a base here. That's what my current mission is. Admittedly, I'm going to fail quite a bit, but hopefully you'll get an idea of the graphics and the look of the game over the course of this video. Now the thing is, this game does look good. Admittedly, I did get a new computer and all, but the thing is, everything here just looks so beautiful, and the world is vibrant and filled with hundreds of little things to do or look at. Towns are really well fleshed out, hopefully I'll show some later, and the countryside is filled with stuff to explore. Overall, I just love to experience this game for what it is. Now, the thing is, I'm not going to spend too much time on the graphics. You can, of course, see so much in the video, but I do want to call out one small thing. Honestly, the character models here, and we'll see some in the story, they're okay. Most of the shots I plan to use here are pretty good. I haven't specifically pulled something out to show anything bad, but some of the characters are definitely in the uncanny valley area, where the game's trying a bit too hard. And I get what they're trying to do, but small things like unkempt hair, with no hair and cloth sim on those pieces, just don't look good. Eye tracking without head tracking doesn't do any favors, especially if the player is very low or very high. And if the character is sitting without that head turning, the character just seems to be looking off in the wrong direction as you're standing over them in a different direction. There's enough little issues with the people that I feel like I have to call this out. Honestly though, there's so much good with the graphics. You can of course see so much of it. Towns are really well built around the church. There's a lively atmosphere in those towns. I really enjoy seeing what the game had for me to find, because the game feels more than just, a simple RPG with a stamped house all over the place. Many buildings and homes actually feel lived in. Even the towns had a flow along with the day's time, and you can actually find the inn lively with people at night and so on. Or maybe people will be moving around as necessary during the day. It's all rather good. Now, normally I talk about a story at this point, but I'm going to switch it up and talk about gameplay first. There's a small reason, and hopefully it'll come through. Now, the thing is, this was a Kickstarter with a heavy push for realistic gameplay, and the fact is that realism, well, it's a major part of the game. It definitely has delivered on that. The idea was to not give just another Skyrim where you're a mythical hero of legend, but have never held a sword before and are instantly a god with it. Instead, Kingdom Come Deliverance pushes the idea that just learning to use a sword should be a major part of the game. In fact, almost every skill and ability is near worthless at the beginning of the game, and it's only through practice and learning that you'll be able to master these arts. This is a major part of the attention to realism that Kingdom Come promises, and it has delivered on those promises in my opinion. The main character starts as a blacksmith's son, and while he could probably have had some weapons training, or at least had practice with them, and probably should have, to be honest, he starts out as untrained as can be. Early in the game, he actually gets a lesson from a roving mercenary, but from there, the player still is a relatively untrained person. You know how to fight, you know the system that's in the game, but you really haven't learned any skills with it. You basically can flap your sword around as if you're trying to fight, but you don't have that ability yet. And that's the thing, that's the idea behind this game. Kingdom Come Deliverance expects you to put in a large amount of time to practice these skills to level them up. It really does expect that time though. Some skills might raise faster than others, such as I found herbalism to be a little bit easier to raise, but ultimately the only way to level these skills is to put in time and effort into the acts necessary for them, whether it be sword fighting, drinking, or even horsemanship. There's actually a lot of different skills in the game, and it's one of the more interesting aspects of the game, as the player literally will be putting in real-world hours, which equates to days of time, to become better at almost anything here. Like I said, for herbalism, this isn't a big problem, as you'll ride the countryside and you eventually might find a field of flowers that you can pick, and you can do so at your leisure. Now, my problem though with this system is that for battle skills, it's a little bit different. Now, the big ones being, of course, sword fighting, archery, and, okay, not a battle skill, but lock picking. And I think these three skills kind of exhibit the major issue I personally have with Kingdom Come Deliverance. The problem is, there's not really a good way to practice most of these skills. One could grab a sword and attack random people, but with realism on the menu and, a town guard that exists, that's not a safe move. Eventually, the town guard will get wind of it, and your reputation will suffer at best. You might be thrown in jail at worst, and that can actually lower your skills. Instead, the player can of course talk to trainers, or try to find easy encounters. But the fact is, there isn't that many easy encounters that I could find. At least I didn't come upon them. The biggest issue is that even early in the game, I was finding myself in sword fights that really challenged me at a great level. I was facing like maybe 2 or 3 enemies at a time, just me, and if you lose that battle, you're dead, you have to start from the last save. It didn't really help anything. Similarly, archery has a lot of handshaking when you try to aim a bow at first, and I have heard higher skill levels will make you have better control, but there's not an easy way to do this without exploiting the system or spending hours hunting. Like, first, finding arrows can be kind of hard to do, but then, even if you have the arrows, you have to actually hit a living target to get experience points, and that can be kind of relatively hard to hit. I've heard people will knock out mission critical people for sword fighting and just fillet them over and over to get experience in that way. You can go hunting for hours, you can go shoot at cows in the farms, you can do all that type of thing, but personally, this sounds like overkill to me. If it sounds good to you, this game is probably for you. And honestly, lockpicking has the same problem with archery. Where do you find lockpicks? Archery, I think I could find them. Lockpicks, I couldn't. And then you have to find easy locks. How can you master that skill if you can't even get the items that you need to practice it? And I'm sure there's answers out there, but I found the skill system to be more frustrating, especially because it seems like the game expects you to be a reasonable level at it before you even try to start the main story. Well, that's not for me. One thing that I really love about Kingdom Come Deliverance is that a majority of the game allows you to play the game your way. Let's say you need a ring from someone. Now, there's a lot of ways you can go about this. You can go fight the owner with a fist, sword, or bow. I think you can even pickpocket them. You can lockpick their chest, maybe even beating a speech check based on your speech skill, reputation, or the scariness of your combat persona. Like, even if you're bloody or clean, it will make a difference in that check. Now, each of these actually involves a different skill or different stat or just different facet of your personality. And the fact is, many times the game will take any of these solutions as the correct one. Though, admittedly, with such a large script, sometimes the game is a little wonky. I've actually been told that I saved the fair lady Teresa from, well, a sexual assault, let's say, at the beginning of the game. Now, before you all praise me, the fact is, I really didn't. At least not actively. I believe when I called for my horse while trying to run away from everything, the men involved in her incident heard me and chased me instead of continuing what they were doing. I'm not 100% sure, I definitely don't know, but that's my best guess, because I heard one person shouting, but honestly I was running for my life at that time. Similarly, I was told I beat a lord during a hunting tournament trip that we took together. When my archery was so poor, I actually only killed a single bunny. But somehow I ended up having 10 hare corpses in my inventory. Maybe I got them from somewhere else, probably did. And I don't know for sure, but to me, that really didn't work. It felt like I was lying to the person rather than, correctly accepting the praise. But the issue is, the game treated it as I honestly had won that accolade. It's just a shame. I wish the game, even if you cheated something, could call it out, or at least it felt like you actually had earned these abilities. Didn't happen that often, but still was annoying when it did. Now, I did really like the ability to use my words to avoid almost every fight in the game, and that allowed me to play a character that was a little bit more savvy. I really enjoyed that because he wasn't just a melee fighter. It's an interesting idea, until the game forced me into battle. Now, admittedly, this game does this a few times, and the fact is, a lot of times you can find ways around this, call on reinforcements, or so on, and that's actually pretty good. There's actually one part that was really interesting. There's a great melee after the scenes that you've seen, which I honestly wish the game had more of because it's a great place to level up your skills with minor risk to yourself, but admittedly, it doesn't happen that often, I think. After this point, though, basically you get sent right into a one-on-one fight with a rather dangerous and strong boss. Problem is, because I hadn't leveled up my fighting ability that much, I was more of a speaker, almost a lord myself, I was ill prepared for this fight, and I ended up really struggling and having a problem with it. We'll talk more about this, but obviously you can go back to an old save, work on your fighting skill, and I think most fans will have to do that at that point unless they heavily invested in sword fighting or archery or something else. A quick note though, the save system is a little bit odd, but honestly I didn't have many problems with it, though once in a while I died, and that can be dangerous if you lose maybe an hour or two of gameplay progress. The good news though is that sleeping or completing major quest parts will give you a save. There are also potions that allow you to save at any point that you want, so it's actually a pretty good system. So with the exception of that magic save potion, honestly, Kingdom Come Deliverance is very realistic. Let's talk about the story now. Now, as mentioned, our main character is a young man named Henry. He's a blacksmith's son. He's actually quite untrained in fighting arts and really life in general, but he's learned parts of blacksmithing from his father. Unfortunately, these skills don't seem to really be used in the game. I haven't found a way to become an apprentice to someone, probably somewhere in the game that is. But at the beginning of the game, his little town is actually quickly overrun by an attacking enemy early on, and it's quite a bloody battle. Henry is forced to flee from his town to the neighboring town to warn them after watching his parents slaughtered, which, yeah, that's a really bad time. And to be honest, this isn't a generic fleeing that, is in most games. You literally have to run. You have to run as fast as you can, and you can't fight worth a lick at this point, and the game will punish you if you aren't running at almost top speed during the whole section. It's actually, a little bit odd because you keep restarting if you die, but at the same time, it actually has this great feeling of danger, and you have to get away. Now, you arrive at another town, which will take you in and protect you. I'm not going to tell the whole story here, just the beginning is interesting, but there's a lot in this game. The generic version is you quickly rise through the ranks and become a soldier in the service of a lord, who was originally looking over that initial town. Now, admittedly, much of the game is about you trying to go out and get the sword that was stolen from you, that you were supposed to deliver to that first lord. That's kind of the meaning of the word deliverance, but there's such a larger story here. Now, before I give my thoughts on the game, let me be very clear. The story in Kingdom Come Deliverance is great. On screen, we have an early scene from that first town where Henry is telling the lady of the castle about the war, how he fled, and yes, there's a few minor issues with the telling of the scene, mostly odd parts where the camera just focuses on, I believe, the bed area of his room, which is empty. But the writing and the dialogue in this game is excellent, especially when you consider the choices that Henry can make that change the story, and the way the game's script is structured makes everything really well done. Admittedly, though, I do have a problem with the story. You see, Henry rises from a blacksmith's son to a refugee from his town to a night watch guard to a town guard, a page, then he's employed in a lord's service. And yeah, that's a lot. That would actually be pretty much a full game. This takes between 2 to 4 days in Kingdom Come Deliverance, if the player is actively trying to follow the main story. Players can go off at any of these points and go wander and do what he wants, you know. But in this case, I tried to follow the main storyline, and I hammered through these in just a few days. Even these events are really fast. You spend one night watching the walls, one night as a town guard, you go hunting one time with a lord, and then you're employed as in the service as kind of a knight almost. And the thing is, you really don't do well at these jobs. Uh, Henry deserts one of them, ends up fighting a lord in a fist fight in an unseemly way, and he gets chastised for it. That lord is the one that you're now a page for. He gets captured. Admittedly, you succeed there, but Henry isn't very good at any of these jobs. Perhaps he'll just try to find a place where he'll do the least amount of damage. And listen, here's my problem. This is a very realistic game in everything in the gameplay. So why is it so quick to unrealistically promote Henry to this lofty position? He's a very bad town guard. Let's make him follow the lord around as his only page. This could have been solved by having maybe a skill test to prove that Henry's ready for the next part of the story, or asking Henry to prove himself by like an exhibition before each new job. But nope, that's not how this game works. The story just rushes forward and Henry is along for a ride. There's not even a way to do like radiant quests to get better at your skills over time. Now overall, this is fine. I mean, like I've said, I like the story quite a bit. But the story is completely unrealistic. And admittedly, okay, I haven't finished this game, and there's a couple of reasons. I do have less time these days, as I've talked about previously. I got stuck at that one fight that I just wasn't prepared for the combat. I didn't spend the time leveling, to be honest, and I put in at least 20 hours into this, and I probably saw maybe a little bit less than half of the story. I have read more of it. It's actually pretty good. Again, I really do like the story, even though I'm making... Admittedly, it's a little unrealistic. Ignoring the 100 or so side quests as well in the game, but I also... Here's the thing, I don't want to play more. The thing is, Kingdom Come Deliverance is a really good game for people who like it. And I agree. I see the quality, I see the levels, I see the realism, it's all there. There's definitely problems in my opinion, but the person that this game was built for, the people who backed it on Kickstarter, you know, the guys who actually spent money to make this game, really wanted this game, not Skyrim, and that's perfectly fine. If you're curious about this game, let's talk about two questions. Are you ready to put in a lot of time into this game before you're really competent at many of the core skills in the game? I mean, you're not going to get be a good archer, a good warrior, or even a great thief without spending at least 5 to 10 hours or maybe gaming the system. And if that's cool with you, great. On the other side, are you ready to struggle a bit? Combat here is not just swing a sword mindlessly and win. Same with archery, you're actually going to have to aim, and there's no reticule in the game unless you mod it in, which I don't do to review games. And the same with like lockpicking and more. This isn't just clicking a button, you're going to have to realistically do many things in this game. Even sharpening swords are really interesting. And the fact is, you do spend those 5 to 10 hours to get at least one of these skills working because you'll need to do it to win fights. Now, personally, the answer for me was, I really don't have the time, and while I found the combat interesting and unique, I'm not really interested in playing more of the game. Maybe if I had higher levels already, I was able to see the full combat as it's supposed to be, but I really didn't want to spend the time playing Kingdom Come Deliverance. However, I do understand this game. I don't love it, but I can recommend it to others if this sounds good. It's actually really interesting, and it's definitely a different type of game. And just realize it's not for everyone, and it's definitely an acquired taste. Though with that said, I'm going to give Kingdom Come Deliverance a 3.5 out of 5. You know, that's a very solid score, maybe a little bit below what I'd call a great game, but it's still really good, and if you get excited for anything I've been talking about, especially the struggling with each skill check, this is definitely made for you. It's currently $12 in the Humble Monthly Bundle for August, so before August is started, and at that price, it's probably worth checking out, just out of curiosity, or to see a really different game from this genre. kudos to Warhorse, and I really hope people who back this game are happy, because I think this is one of the few Kickstarters that actually delivered on all the promises of the game. You know, ultra realism is here, really unique style to the game, and it's a rather good experience. So again, kudos to them. And that is Kingdom Come Deliverance. Now, I will be back soon to give you my take on Surviving Mars. That's, well, next time. Feel free to give this a thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever you think. Comment, subscribe, ring the bell, shave the goat, whatever YouTube things you normally do. And until next time, I'm King Link, and thank you for watching.